Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we discuss a legendary captain of the Imperial Fist chapter, a man who proved himself a true son of Dawn. And no, it's not Lysander. Today we discuss Captain Dysorian. General spoiler warning to begin, as we will be discussing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, and specifically regarding the events of the novel Shroud of Night by Andy Clark. As always, I'll drop a link to the novel in the description. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So today we reach the end of our Heroes of the Imperium week, a week we have dedicated to some of the largest heroes of the Imperium. And man, I had so many hallmark characters I wanted to discuss. Khosrow Khan, Sicarius, Ventress, Lysander, Gabriel Angelos. However, in the end, I decided to talk about a captain that not many people would have heard of, because that to me really typifies the true heroes of the Imperium. Unknown and unheralded names, dedicating their lives in the name of the Emperor. Just because they aren't widely known doesn't mean their sacrifices aren't as legendary. And man, does Dysorian fit that bill. Now, Dysorian was a captain of the Imperial Fist's 4th Company, and we were introduced to him in the novel Shroud of Night. And I will say this before we go any further, Shroud of Night is an absolutely amazing read. It's been a year or so since we reviewed it, but still, when I think back of all the novels I've read outside of the Heresy series, Shroud of Night is still one of those standout ones that comes to mind. It's an epic 40k action adventure in novel format, and I'm still holding out hope for a sequel. Even though we're only discussing one of its characters today, do yourself a favour and check it out without spoilers. It's always the best way to experience the stories in my opinion. But back to Dysorian. Now, Dysorian embodied everything it meant to be a captain of the Imperial Fists. Solid, implacable and unrelenting. While we don't know when he did assume the rank of captain, we do know he led the 4th Company in the immediate aftermath of the fall of Cadia, the ultimate time of darkness for the Imperium, as the Great Rift of the Cicatrix Maledictum ripped it clean in half. We also know that he was a firstborn Marine, and so most likely had led the company before Cadia's fall. Like so many of his fellow firstborn Marines, Dysorian was extremely skeptical of the few new Primaris creations. Indeed, he had some fresh from the Ultima founding directly under his command. Though privately he held out true trust and judgment on these creations of Guilliman's, publicly he performed as any good captain should, welcoming the new recruits into his ranks and schooling them in the ways of true Sons of Dawn. Now, it was during these nightmarish years that Dysorian was tasked with the defense of the Imperial world known as Sedreca. We don't have an exact location for this world, but we do know that it was located to the far galactic northeast, which puts it almost certainly across the Great Rift within the Imperium Nihilus, meaning it was at the mercy of the ruinous powers. And so this was the case for Sedreca, that it was faced with an almost constant threat of invasion. In fact, it had already withstood 2 previous invasions before the traitor forces of the World Eaters arrived. An almighty World Eater warband of literally hundreds of vessels, countless traitor Astartes and cultists dedicated to the Blood God. And so it was here that Captain Dysorian performed his duty, knowing the odds were astronomically against him. As a firstborn Marine, Dysorian had countless years of experience beneath him, and he steadfastly performed his duty, fortifying the capital hive as only the Sons of Dawn could, with the limited materials that were available. And from that, he created a bastion of defense that would have truly made his Primarch proud. So formidable was it, the World Eater's invasion, despite its overwhelming numbers, very nearly failed to penetrate it. Their casualties numbered into the millions. The millions. As cultists and traitors died before Dysorian's perfect defense, cleansing their vessels out of the sky. If not for an act of sheer desperation and madness, Dysorian's defense would have won the day on its own. However, ultimately his defense was broken, though not through any fault of his own. And here, this is the kind of moment that truly represents the greatness of the Astartes to me. Their undying devotion to their duty. Dysorian's defense was broken. Floods of limitless traitors were steamrolling into the hive, as Imperial forces attempted to rally and fall back against the carnage. Whereas so many commanders may have fallen back, retreating to a point of command overview, Dysorian charged into the breach. This was the time. This was the moment that Dysorian, in my mind, puts his name alongside the greats of his chapter. He exemplified all those unspoken and forgotten captains of the Imperium history. Amid the darkness of the Imperium Nihilus, still the Space Marines of the Emperor gave the people hope. And what transpired was nothing short of heroic. Dysorian ending up confronting the leader of the World Eaters warband, a Chaos champion enhanced to the size of a dreadnought. But still, Dysorian didn't back down, and through sheer defiant bloody-mindedness, the Imperial Fist stopped the Chaos champion in his tracks. Honestly, it was an amazing feat. Despite the sheer insanity of the situation, Dysorian didn't even blink, and if it was for this fact alone, Dysorian would have deserved for his name to be mentioned alongside the chapter greats such as Lysander. And again, these situations and examples happen every day across the length and breadth of the Imperium. So many unknown sacrifices made, so many courageous stands. Unfortunately, the history of Cedreca doesn't end there, because it was then the demons came, led by none other than the Chosen of Khorne, the betrayer, Khan. The Imperial Fists and Dysorian had given everything to stem the tide of traitor forces, and behind the leadership and actions of Dysorian himself, they had performed the impossible. But this, even if they weren't already exhausted and severely depleted of numbers, was simply a battle too far. And this is where Dysorian's history would end. Rather than retreating where he could, falling back to the next available position, Dysorian made his stand. Knowing the battle was lost, that victory was truly impossible, he elected to give everything he had, everything the Imperial Fists had left, in buying time for the rest of the forces. In this moment, this forgotten captain of his chapter gave everything he had. It was a glorious end, something that deserved to be told for centuries down the line of his chapter. He may have known it was hopeless, exhausted and blooded from the battle he'd already withstood, in a glorious stand the Primarch himself would have been proud of. He took the fight to the ruinous powers. And again, this forlorn last stand of unbridled heroism is truly replicated so many times across the Imperium. Actions performed by countless unnamed captains on so many forgotten worlds. It's the perfect example of the true heroes of the Adeptus Astartes. True heroes in the name of the Emperor of Mankind. They may not get the renown of Calgar. They may not get the showcase of Sicarius. They may not get the glory of Dante. But it's by their effort that the Imperium truly still stands. But as always guys, what do you think? Does Dysorian deserve to have his name venerated akin to that of Lysander? How many other captains do you know that deserve to have their story heard? That deserve to have their name echoed amongst the halls of their chapter? As always guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you as always to my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.